Welcome to Melt University. This series will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Now, here's your host, the president and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students. Virtual Melt University. We are continuing to roll on. Can you believe it? By the time you hear this, hopefully you'll be able to celebrate Thanksgiving with your friends and family, be stuffed with turkey, a little football. It'll probably be a Thanksgiving unlike any other, and Christmas holidays. But we do appreciate your participation, your feedback, solicitation of guests. We're hearing a lot of positive things, from our guest. And we've got a special one today. My newest, fastest best friend, Tracy Deforge, the founder and CEO of Players Impact. We got a great mutual friend in Kristen Kaliga, whom you probably have just heard on the Melt U podcast. But Tracy and Kristen are part of a major team of superstars who are doing a lot of great things in sports, in the business of sports and entrepreneurship of sports, and a ton of things. Players Impact combines an extensive and elite cross-sport athlete network with experts, early-stage resources, high-end investment opportunities, a very big, thriving ecosystem. We're going to have Tracy talk about that today. We're going to have her talk about her entrepreneurial spirit. I'm encouraging a lot of our students to pursue your dreams now, but also a storied career, law degree from Seton Hall, working with the NHL, working with MLB, one of my founder of the Boston chapter of WISE, one of my favorite sports business organizations in the country, board member of USA Team Handball. I love handball. I got to experience it in the 96 Olympics during Atlanta. But Tracy, welcome to Virtual Melt University. We are honored to have you on.
Thank you, Vince. I'm honored to be on. I'm really excited to chat with you and your students virtually today.
Yeah, we look forward to it because a lot of what we hear from our students, not only the gratitude and appreciation that people like yourself are sharing and allowing to be networked with throughout this crazy pandemic, but also we're just learning so much about new opportunities in the world of sports and the world of sports business. And I think that you're sort of in the epicenter of those types of activities. And I really want to talk about Players Impact. But kind of before we dive into a lot of these areas, we sort of always like to throw it back to the childhood and the high school and the college of where you may have developed a passion for business or entrepreneurship or sports business very early. And clearly you've worked with some of the most vaunted sports organizations in the world. Sort of for you, where did all of this passion emanate? Did you always know you wanted to be in the world of sports business?
No, absolutely not. Actually, since the time I was 12, I knew I was going to be a lawyer. That was something that I put myself on that path. But always imagined myself with a path towards the FBI in reality.
Wow.
Yeah. It wasn't until I got to college and was able to play at a D1 institution that I really was intrigued as an athlete coming in on a partial scholarship because it was a small D1 school in a non-revenue generating sport. But I was very intrigued with the business of sport there. Right. And that's when I realized the sports industry was something that I wanted to pursue. And, going and continuing on with my dream to go to law school is where I was able to marry the two.
So you were a student athlete, and we always love student athletes, and we've talked to our kids a lot about the future and name, image, and likeness, and we'll touch on that in just a few minutes. And then so Seton Hall, obviously, great athletic programs. I think with the great Lou Carnesecca, the great basketball coach at Seton Hall, made all these kind of runs. And so as you evolved into pursuing your law degree, at that point was sort of sports on your radar in the sports business by then?
By law school, absolutely. My first day in the door, actually, even before I got to law school, it's the reason I chose that law school in particular, because at the time, it was one of very few law schools in the country that had a sports law program. And by program, I mean a fellowship, a journal. They had a whole bunch of connectivity to the industry. And it made sense for me I went to my undergrad at Wagner College on Staten Island, and Seton Hall Law was right across the river in Newark. So it made a lot of sense.
Beautiful area out there. So coming out of law school, you dove right into the professional world of the NHL, correct?
Yeah. I would say that, I used my entire law school career to get access to the NHL. That's right. I worked very hard while I was at Seton Hall to develop those opportunities, those networking opportunities. I started the Sports and Entertainment Law Society at Seton Hall Law. And then I wrote on to the Sports Law Journal and was the Sports Law Fellow my third year of law school, which really is an unbelievable opportunity to call just about anybody in the industry and say, we're putting on this program at the law school. Would you be part of it? And that really helped open a lot of doors.
Well, you've touched on several things. And one thing that we tell our students, whether it be undergrad or grad or law, is that the college campus is the ultimate professional laboratory. And all you got to do is look all around you, and those opportunities are there. The other thing that we tell them is create your own platform. So you created this platform, which gave you permission to reach out to all these people. And everybody, we were all once where I am and you are, and where they are now. And so we all like to give back, and like to give back and help. But talk about and we're going to go into the this generation of kids are the most sophisticated consumers there are. But talk about sort of keeping their head up and their eye on the ball while they're at college. No matter what their passion is, there's opportunities will never be like they are right now, will they?
Absolutely not. And that's exactly right. And you asked earlier in the conversation around when I knew I wanted to be entrepreneurial. Well, I didn't know I was being entrepreneurial
right.
When I was at Seton Hall. When I started the Entertainment and Sports Law Society, it was just like if I saw doors, I figured out how to open them. And so if the opportunity isn't there that you need, you create it, right? And that's really the definition of entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that students need to see that there's just not a clear-cut blueprint into the world that they're looking for, that they can always find a different path to get to the same result.
Life is certainly not linear ever, and now especially during all this insanity that we're all living through right now, and hopefully we get to the other side of it. And so coming out of law school, you go to work for the NHL. At that level, were there a lot of opportunities for women to be at the level that you were on with the law degree, negotiating major television deals for, one of the top professional sports leagues in the country? Or did you even let any of that bother you? You just like, hey, I'm diving in like I normally do.
I dove in like I normally do, but I was very aware that it was an uphill battle being a female in the industry. And so one of the first things I did was to join a new organization that was started back then, Women in Sports and Events, which is the WISE group that started in New York. And that was just such a fundamental networking, supportive group around women in the industry. And you mentioned it at the onset, but when I moved back to Massachusetts, where I'm from, and saw a hole in this market, I started the Boston chapter of Women in Sports and Events, because it is such a great needed organization. Women need to be more supportive of other women. And we also need a platform to express our voice as it relates to taking our seat at the table.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Billie Jean King one of the founding members of WISE?
Billie Jean King started the Women's Sports Foundation.
Okay. Because in 2005, I went to it when it was an amazing experience. We've represented Coca-Cola for 20 years, and I traveled to New York with a group from Coca-Cola, my client, and we were carving out a sponsorship relationship with Billie Jean, and it was just what a pioneer in not only sports but in life and in the business of sports, but. And then we did a major Title IX 40-year celebration back in 2012 in New York, and she was a part of that as well. But a lot of pioneers, and just to digress one moment, we talk about role models and we talk about mentors. If you had one particular role model that you might emulate or you might recommend in your path and journey?
That's a great question. I don't know that I have any role models, but I've had an amazing amount of support throughout my career from various different folks. I don't know that I could point to just one.
Yeah, like I said, Billie Jean was, there's so many, and so many guardian angels along the way. So your NHL and then Major League Baseball. Now, when was that tenure?
Gosh, so right out of law school, so 99 and early 2000s.
So that would have been Commissioner Selig when you were was he in charge of MLB when you were there?
Yes, exactly right.
So what's the difference between working in the NHL and the MLB as it relates to? I mean, obviously it's the nation's pastime and all that, but what did you find different about working within the two organizations? And did you enjoy one more than the other?
Oh my gosh, so many things are different about those two organizations. And for clarity, I actually, at the time, MLB Advanced Media was the digital arm of baseball. So we were actually a separate entity.
So you worked for BAM.
I worked for BAM. That's right.
So BAM is so if our students don't know, is acknowledged as the pioneers in all of this digital transformation within sports, in my esteemed opinion. The humble
Absolutely.
opinion. And so you work for BAM.
I worked for BAM. I was one of the very early employees there, and talk about really finding my entrepreneurial niche. I was very fortunate to be part of growing something that I'd never been, or building something that had never been done in sports before. And so when you talk about the differences, I have very subjective viewpoint of what the differences were. While working for hockey was amazing, and I really loved my time and the people there. Working for baseball was building something from nothing. Of course, as a startup, we had the benefit of the brand and the budget because of the way it was funded, but really digging in and was amazing experience for me. I thought that was, and baseball happens to be my favorite sport. So that it was all the
let me guess, you're a Red Sox fan, right?
No, sorry, Vince. Sorry to tell you, I am New York Yankees. I believe you.
Oh my!
That's definitely a sticking point for my family members and others. But and I can get into the long story of it, but I moved out of central Massachusetts when I was, to go to college in New York, and met a ball player who actually taught me baseball, because I didn't really follow baseball as a kid. And when I met him, he was a lifetime Yankee fan. We were early '90s bleacher creatures, and when it was $5 to get into the stadium, and sit there all day, and so that's when I fell in love with baseball. And Bernie Williams, his rookie year.
Nicest guy, right? Nicest guy. Yeah, I'm going to have to get with my buddy Mo Vaughn about your allegiances, and we'll have to get back with you on that one. But like I said, I've always studied BAM, and people don't really realize, like other than the other pro sports leagues, when you go to AtlantaBraves.com, it still ladders into this central repository of data and information, and I just was so far ahead of the game. And probably the terrain that you were in was extraordinarily tricky from an intellectual property perspective of amalgamating all of this, right?
Absolutely. From intellectual property, the rights, the enforcement of the rights, at times felt like we used to joke we were the redheaded stepchild of
Mm-hmm.
baseball in early days, right?
Sure.
Obviously, we were led by a very brilliant CEO, and we're, just pushing boundaries and lines in a way that was, ultimately created a behemoth and
Right.
an exceptional opportunity for all of the club owners to be part of.
No, I thought it was, like I said, I followed it for years and thought it was genius, and like I said, but the intellectual property terrain of that probably kept you busy for a day or two. And and obviously, like I said, I mean, you've amazing entrepreneur, Sports Accelerator, Stadia, the Players Impact. Tell me about the Players Impact. Let's tell our listeners about the Players Impact, and then talk about various careers, because it's interesting, Tracy. We've done a lot of these podcasts now, and we learn every podcast about new opportunities within the world of sports business. So, mental health issues and stadium safety and
Yeah.
data analytics and, performance and hydration. And you see so many athletes now, either starting their products or their own VC funds or those types of things. And because they have the brand and they have the platform to blow these things out. So talk about Players Impact.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. I'm very fortunate to meet my co-founder about 3.5 years ago. Was talking to a few athletes around, at the time, venture, as we call it, these opportunities that you mentioned, largely
Mm-hmm.
called venture, private opportunities. We're exclusively for the one percenters, the guys who were guys and still few women at the time were making all of the money and getting access to Silicon Valley deals,
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted to democratize the access to these deals and the learning opportunities around them. So the second string linebacker could invest in these outsized deals, like some of the athletes before them who are
Mm-hmm.
exclusively getting the opportunities. And so, again, if I were to talk entrepreneurialism, I listened. What is it that we're trying to solve here? What I heard a few athletes talking about, problems they were looking to solve it, and really that's where the players or impact organically grew out from, is solving a problem for we call them the 99 percenters, not those one percenters, the one named athletes, but the rest of them.
Right.
And so that 10-year NFL veteran, it goes all the way down to our female ice hockey Olympian and everyone in between. So we cross all sports and all socioeconomic barriers. As long as they've played professional sports, active, retired, or Olympic level, we want to help them navigate this ecosystem. And to your point of different opportunities in the industry, definitely, this doesn't follow any blueprint. This has never
All
been
right.
done before. And so oftentimes it's about creating your own opportunities.
Well, I think it's brilliant, obviously, because, you read about, one of the ones everybody's the most familiar with is my clients, my friends at Body Armor. Kobe puts the 6 million in and becomes 200 million and all those types of things. But I think that what you're doing, there's tons of opportunities here in Atlanta. It's a mecca for current and retired players. And we'll have to get you down here for that. So what types of deals are you seeing kind of flow over the transom now that might interest our students? You see a lot about the cannabis and the
Oh, yeah.
CBD, and you see about
Mhm.
performance and hydration. You see technology and all of that. But where do you kind of see the future going out of that? Because our students have access to the current students on campus. They're going to be able to start monetizing their name, image, and likeness sometime next year as well. So where would you tell our students to sort of keep their eyes open?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, keeping your eyes open, teaching yourself, again, we're all about empowering the athletes in business. You have to know how to value an opportunity. Just because a company is going to give you equity in to be the face of it doesn't mean it's a good opportunity. It sounds sexy and great. Across sector, we look across all opportunities, whether it's esports or fintech, financial
Yeah.
technology,
Yeah,
sports
that's
tech,
big.
etc. I love anything really where artificial intelligence is playing, and where that fits in across a whole bunch of sectors in the future. And data, etc. So there's no one place that I point anyone, because we like to mitigate the risk. It is, this asset class is a risky landscape, and so as
Right.
we mitigate, diversity of portfolio is important. And so we look across all areas, and as your athletes are getting involved and being able to take advantage of the new NCAA policies, I think that just surrounding themselves with the right team, a very trusted team to navigate that landscape is super important, and because there's a lot of bad actors out there, and
Right.
we try to avoid those types of opportunities that are not in the athlete's best interests.
Right. I mean, unfortunately, that's the truth, and a lot of these athletes, they've come into some money. They've great athletes, but they're never involved in the business world. I mean, tend to be trusting, and you hear it and you see it. And I see a ton of them here, obviously, just with all the friends I have in the athletic world. But talk about, and you hit on something that's a little bit broader theme for us. The value of relationships, the value of, we say that, people say, how do you represent Coca-Cola for 20 years? I go, I never take the relationship for granted. You got to water it, you got to flower it, prune it, fertilize it, give it sun. The first two letters of RE, our relationship, are also reciprocal. It's got to go back and forth, give and take. Talk about and particularly in our industry, the world is so dang small. Talk about the value of, talk about your philosophy and the value of the relationships in any scenario, but particularly in our industry.
Absolutely, any scenario, relationships are everything, right? It's really, to me, the value of who you are, and as you walk through
Bingo.
your journey, never taking them for granted, never I would say taking advantage of them, always being reciprocal, and always asking first what you can do for someone else. I think that ends up being what you can offer. Anytime that one of your students is looking to network with somebody, don't always network with an ask in your hand. Offer to treat
Bingo.
somebody to a cup of coffee and listen, and then put them in your network, keep them updated, and then when there's an ask to be had, you've developed the relationship. A relationship is not cold calling somebody or linking into them because you think that it's going to be advantageous to you. It is about figuring out what the two-way street can look like, and then that, I think, is a good way to approach networking in general. And our industry is a very small industry, although it's large and worth multi-billions of dollars. You end up seeing a lot of the same people throughout each
Right.
area of sports, and so making sure that you're staying connected and doing the right things. By when you say you're going to do something, do the thing you said you were going to do,
Right.
and make sure you're following up at all times. I think those are really important barometers for creating the appropriate relationship that, in my world now, as old as I am, Vince, it's, I can look back on people that I worked with 20, 25 years ago. I've got now interns that have worked for me over the years in different
Right.
positions of power. And, it's not just a one and done type of ask in any scenario. These are ways that you can see it as I always like to say, being a marathon runner, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Don't
Right.
jump over the dollar to get to the quarter. Think about the long-term value
Right.
of each of the conversations that you're having.
Yeah, that's a big one, and I think that, wouldn't you say the same sort of philosophy or belief or value system applies to the mentors as well. Don't treasure a mentor. Don't take it for granted. Don't pick one that's going to sugarcoat or candy coat advice to you. I've had tremendous mentors and guardian angels, but they've given me a lot of tough love, and I try to give that tough love now, particularly with students are in for the reality of the COVID and post-COVID job market, particularly in our industry, is just going to be brutal because so many people are unemployed in our industry, are willing to take a lesser job for a lesser salary, and it's gonna be some pain for the while. So find those relationships and find those mentors. Wouldn't you say?
I would say that is spot on. Find those mentors that aren't going to, nothing's going to be handed to you. So
Right.
you have to work for it, and finding the right people to surround yourselves with. Just as I mentioned on the athlete side, you have to be thinking about sort of doing exactly what they say, whether or not you like what they have to say, because they've been there, they've seen it, and if they're the right mentors, they have your best interests at heart. They're not going to steer you wrong.
Right. And like I said, we encourage our kids and you can still have mentors in a virtual environment. In fact, sometimes it might be a little easier now because like in a typical work day, people are in meetings 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Now, a lot of us are at home and working virtually and things of that nature. There's so many, great tools out there. I think LinkedIn, is the most amazing tool that's ever been created for the business world. It's that in the old days, I had to go to the library and get a yellow page or an encyclopedia, and kids look at me like I, landed from Mars or something like that. But for you, because you got a tremendous profile on LinkedIn, and I always like to go study these profiles before I do my interviews. I tell the kids, know your target, soften your target, know the emotional cues of the target. What gets your attention if a student from Melt University wants to reach out to you on LinkedIn? Because you will believe sometimes I'll get that or a resume that says, hey, dear careers at Melt, here's my resume. I need to make X amount of dollars. And I might automatically flush them because they flunked the audition.
Right.
And I'm like, you're only showing how important it is. It's only as important as you make it. And you're showing that type of effort you would make as an employee. So what gets your attention at a professional's your level? Because I've been where you were. You've been where you were. We know where these kids are. We want to help.
I think for me, it's about the professionalism on the outreach. It's not just hey, link in with me with no message, right? It has to have a note associated with it that says, here's why I want to link in with you, or, what you're thinking about, or what you want to know. Otherwise, it's just like you're trolling my LinkedIn and you want to get connected to my connections, but you're not really sure why, right? And so I really want to know what the person's why is.
I love that, because if they don't know their why, how the hell can you tell them their why, right?
Exactly.
And it's like, and I always say, don't make a hard ask on the come out. Just say, hey, Mr. Forge, congrats on your success. I see you're a student athlete. I was a student athlete. They're communicating these very subtle and intangible signs to you. And at some point you might respond and say, yeah, I'd love to network with you and those types of things. Or, hey, I heard you on the Melt You podcast. As we wrap up this great conversation, share, and I love to ask this question, and not necessarily the traditional, trade industry and periodicals and all that, but what are some good resources and go-tos that you, from a podcast or book or speakers or people that you follow for inspiration? What things would you recommend to our listeners, to particularly during the holidays, they're going to have a little time to beef up on and study or read or listen to?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of the industry rags, if you call them, the online newsletters, there's so many good ones like Hashtag Sports and Sport Techie and Sports Business Journal and The Daily. There's Axios Sports.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, just understanding exactly who all of the players are in the sports industry help you understand how many different opportunities there are to enter it, right? It's not always having to go work for a team or a league. And you talked about it earlier, is there's so many other tangential ways to enter the industry and get that experience and knowledge. So reading as much as the business rags as you can really makes a lot of sense.
No, I probably read 40 or 50 publications a day.
Yep.
and constantly taking notes. So here's the trend, here's so-and-so, reach out to so-and-so, because you just don't ever know. I mean, it's a fishing analogy. You got to get those lines in the water and you're going to get some of those bites. But
yeah. And it's all backed by Vince research, right? No, you said it, know your audience, but research. What is it what industry are they in? What lens do they take a look at the industry? Research, and all these things help.
Spot on. And we talk to our kids a lot, and we say, look, know your target, search those emotional cues, and provide what value you can bring to that person, organization, or that job opportunity. And at some point, you're going to break through that ice or that wall or that door, and there's going to be something's going to fall for us in this environment. But Tracy, this has been just a fantastic discussion. I want to circle back and even learn more about the player's impact, maybe share some wisdom with some of your athletes or some of the businesses with some of our other folks as well, and the great contributions that you're making to the profession of sports business, parlaying your student athlete, great professional sports leagues, the WISE chapter. If you're in a city, seek out the Atlanta WISE chapter. Is amazing, great leaders. And even if you don't have one, start your own on a student campus. I'm sure Tracy could help you figure out how to navigate that, because it's networking, relationships, and padding that resume. And at some point that putt's going to fall. So Tracy Deforge, founder, CEO of the Player Impact, lawyer, Seton Hall, great, amazing career. Great entrepreneur. We really appreciate you lending your time and wisdom and wise words today to the students of Virtual Melt University, and I'm sure you're going to hear from a lot of them.
I sure do hope so. I'm grateful for the opportunity you've given me, Vince, to give back. I like I said, along the way, I've gotten so much help from other people in the industry, and I'm grateful to be able to pay it forward.
So thank you, Tracy, and students, have a wonderful holiday, and we'll be back soon with Virtual Melt University.
Thanks, Vince. Hope you enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with another edition of Melt University 2020.